there is a carbon footprint both associated with the cows themselves, with their methane production, but not only that, which is what it is, but not only that, with all of the machinery and all the technology that's used in order to, grow and feed these cows. So when you factor all these variables in, what we found was that on a yearly basis, actually no, per day, we broke it down per day eventually, was the mass of CO2 that would be produced per person per day would be about 31 kilograms. So 31 kilograms of CO2 per person per day. That is the CO2 production if you were to eat strictly beef for your entire calorie intake. Now, when we compare that to something that, we might have some sort of relative basis of understanding with, so for example, with our automobile use, with our gasoline consumption, what we found was that the average person, I believe this was based off of the US consumption of vehicle use. So this is, again, I think probably on the upper end, because that's probably like the culture where the car is probably like the most central role in terms of how people commute on a daily basis. So what we found was that on average a person would be producing 10.5 kilograms of CO2 per day. So in terms of automobile use, you'd be producing 10.5 kilograms of CO2 per day, but in terms of your diet, you'd be producing 31 kilograms of CO2 per day. So almost literally 3 times as much of a carbon footprint when you have your car, regular automobile use versus your diet. So again, it kind of really shows the environmental implications of a diet that is strictly based off of meat. If you're only consuming beef specifically, you really see that there is an environmental cost that's quite great associated with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is important to highlight here is that so many of us, the way that we consume meat is we're so separated from the process.
Right.
By the time we go to the grocery store and pick the steak off the shelf there, it's we've met it at such a downstream position in a sense. With a car, there is the ability to look out the window and see the tailpipe of the car beside you, the exhaust coming out of it, and there's your CO2. But when you think about eating a steak for supper and lunch, you're not really thinking, holy shit, this is actually, the emissions associated with what I'm consuming right now is greater than what I had done today when I was traveling to the market to pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not something that we think of on a daily basis. What our environmental footprint is with regards to some of the decisions that we're making. And I think that that's an issue where people really need to have that mindset where we're consciously aware of what are we doing, what are the steps that every individual is taking in order to ensure that their carbon footprint, their water consumption, whatever it may be, is that it aligns with their ideology. So if you're one of those people that's screaming and shouting for government, for big corporations, for big oil to do something about the environment, well, then you yourself need to be doing something about the environment and ensuring that comes from your own individual carbon footprint.